But it strikes me that this is a particularly brave film to make in the current cultural climate. There aren't car chases or murders or much violence
We have
at all.
some boats.
There's a couple of boats, and there are some hysterical outbursts and some consensual spanking. But some critics have gone as far as to say that it isn't a very Cronenberg-like film. You've heard this, I'm sure. Do you see this film as being different from those that came before in your canon?
Well, I have to say, I mean, of course, I can step back and start to be a sort of a critic or an analyst of my own films if I need to, if I have to. But when I'm making a movie, I really don't think about my other movies at all. It's as though I never made them. You know, what is there, what people's expectations
But now,
are from
what do you
me.
think? What do you think now?
Well, now I think to me the movie totally feels like me to me, you know. And I mean, even my early horror films were intellectual on a certain level,
But it's a period piece. It feels...
well, yeah, but so was M. Butterfly, so was Spider, so was Naked Lunch. They were
Spider
all,
was a period piece?
absolutely. It was set in like the 1950s in
Right,
Britain.
right.
And it required all of those things that you require, which is to say the cars on the street, the clothes, the hairstyles,
But
and
you
the
get
locations.
that the aesthetic of this seems different for
Yeah,
people.
I mean, people could say, well, it's my first biopic, you know, or something like that. But to me, that's irrelevant. I mean, it's almost like saying, let's put it this way. Fans of Viggo Mortensen, are they really fans of his, or are they fans of Lord of the Ring? So, you know, if they want Viggo only when he's Aragorn, then they're not going to be interested in him as Sigmund Freud.
Right.
But if you're fans of Viggo as an actor, then you're going to be desperate to see him as Sigmund Freud. So that's the way I feel about it with my fans, such as they are. If they're interested in me as a filmmaker, they're going to love this movie. You know, that's the way I feel. If they're only interested in my early low-budget horror films, then no, they're not going to like this movie.
In the absence of physical action, there's a lot of debate and discussion. You said that as a director, the most difficult thing to shoot is two people in a room.
That's right.
Why is that so hard?
Because you are vulnerable to you have no flash, you have nothing to distract, you know, you have no cinematic tricks. You really it's all faces and dialogue and movement around a room. I mean, there is choreography in a room can really be very meaningful, and I think you see that a lot in A Dangerous Method. It's a subtle thing, but how you move the actors around and how they relate to each other physically in space, that's the primal thing that you do with movies. I mean, the thing that is most photographed when you're a filmmaker is the human face. It's not cars, it's not action, it's the human face, and usually the human face speaking. And so that's you're going back to the primordial ooze of cinema when you shoot two people in a room. And to me, to make that interesting and fascinating to the point where you can't take your eyes off it, that's the ultimate trick.
The primordial ooze of cinema.
Yes.
I like that you just... Did you like that you just said that?
I did. It felt good coming out of my mouth, I have to say.
It
just oozed out.
Viggo Mortensen and Michael Fassbender, both, we identify them as very physical actors. They've been in action films. They are active in the films. To see these two guys, both relatively, I mean, physically restrained, spanking aside.
Yes.
And
let's make it clear that Jung doesn't spank Freud, or vice versa. Just
Spoiler alert.
Just to be clear.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Now that you've spoiled it.
I know.
For those who are looking for Viggo to be spanked. So, but you see where I'm going with this. One wouldn't, on the surface, see these two guys as the guys to play Freud and Jung, even younger versions of them, as you alluded to. Why did you feel like they were right?
Well, I think it's really a question of the passion that these people had for their ideas. This was not sort of abstract, dry thought. These people were incredibly passionate and obsessive about the ideas they had. It excited them physically, sexually, intellectually, socially, and they really did feel that they were bringing something revolutionary and exciting and new to the field of the study of the human condition, basically. So it wasn't just a kind of there is a physicality about it, and in fact, the philosophy itself of Freud and Jung, I mean, the theories, at least at this stage with Jung, were very physical, as I say, very body-oriented in terms of Freud. He was insisting on the reality of the human body at a time when it was covered up, basically. And so to cast physical actors makes absolutely perfect sense to me.